I stood in our living room, trembling hands clutching the acceptance letter from State University. The paper felt heavy, like it carried every dream I'd ever had. My father sat on his leather recliner, barely glancing up from his phone when I cleared my throat. "Dad, I got in," I whispered, my voice cracking with hope. He looked at me then, his eyes cold and distant, like I was a stranger who'd interrupted his evening. "That's nice, Bliss," he said flatly. My stepmother, Victoria, walked in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She glanced at the letter, then at me, and smirked. "College?
For you," she laughed.
"That's for kids who actually matter to this family." My father nodded slowly, setting his phone down. "I'm not paying for it. You'll never make it anyway." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Before I could respond, he stood up, took the letter from my shaking hands, and tore it in half. The sound of ripping paper echoed in the silent room. I dropped to my knees, gathering the torn pieces through blurred vision, my tears staining the fragments of my future. "My name is Bliss Harrington. I'm 18 years old, from a small town in Ohio. If stories like mine resonate with you, please subscribe to this channel for more real-life experiences that prove resilience always wins." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my small bedroom, staring at the ceiling, replaying those words over and over. "You'll never make it." The house was quiet except for muffled voices downstairs. Curiosity pulled me from bed. I crept to the top of the stairs, pressing myself against the wall. "We need her gone after graduation," my father said. "She's 18 now. Not our problem anymore." Victoria laughed. "Finally. I'm tired of pretending she belongs here." My heart stopped. They were planning to throw me out. 1 week after graduation, my father made good on his threat. I woke to the sound of zippers and rustling. When I walked downstairs, my belongings were piled in garbage bags on the front porch. "Dad, what's happening?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. He didn't look at me. "You're an adult now. Time to figure things out on your own." I grabbed his arm. "Please, just give me a few weeks to find somewhere to stay." He yanked his arm away and pointed to the door.
"Leave. Now."
Victoria appeared behind him, arms crossed, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. I grabbed 2 bags and stumbled down the porch steps, tears streaming down my face. The door slammed behind me. I stood on the sidewalk, homeless, broken, and completely alone. Mrs. Patterson, our elderly neighbor, rushed over. "Bliss, honey, what happened?" I couldn't speak. She helped me carry my bags to her garage. "You can stay here tonight," she said gently. Later that evening, she sat beside me. "Your father has money, Bliss. Plenty of it. He's just choosing not to help you." The truth stung worse than the rejection. That night, Mrs. Patterson's words echoed in my mind. My father wasn't broke. He simply didn't think I was worth investing in. I cried into my pillow until exhaustion finally pulled me under. The next morning, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hi, Bliss. This is Marco from Sunrise Diner. We have an opening for night shifts if you're interested." My lifeline had arrived. The diner became my second home. I worked from 8 at night until 4 in the morning, serving truckers and insomniacs their coffee and eggs. My feet ached constantly, but I saved every dollar. During the day, I slept on my friend Taylor's couch, contributing what I could for groceries. 2 months in, I finally applied to community college. Sitting in that diner restroom at 3 in the morning, I pulled up the tuition costs on my phone. My stomach dropped. Even with my savings, I was thousands short. I pressed my forehead against the cold tile wall and sobbed quietly, trying not to let the customers hear. When I returned to the counter, my coworker Ruby noticed my red eyes. "You okay, sweetie?" I shook my head. She squeezed my hand. "Have you looked into emergency grants? Students in tough situations can get help." Hope flickered in my chest. That night, I spent hours filling out forms, documenting my homelessness, explaining my situation in painful detail. 2 weeks later, an email arrived from the college admissions office. My heart raced as I opened it. "We need to speak with you regarding concerns about your application." The email was vague and formal. Concerns? What could possibly be wrong? I hadn't lied about anything. My hands shook as I typed a response requesting a meeting.
Sleep didn't come that night.
All I could think about was losing this chance. My only chance. I walked into the admissions office the next afternoon, my stomach in knots. The counselor, Ms. Andrews, looked uncomfortable as she gestured for me to sit. Bliss, we received a call from someone claiming to be your legal guardian. My blood ran cold. He expressed concerns about your financial stability and suggested you might not be ready for college. I knew immediately. What did this person sound like? I asked, my voice trembling. She described him perfectly, my father's deep voice, his condescending tone. He was trying to sabotage me even after throwing me out. Ms. Andrews, that man kicked me out of his house 2 months ago. He's trying to stop me from succeeding. Her expression softened. She pulled up my file, reviewing my grants application, my work history, the letter from Mrs. Patterson confirming I had no home. Based on your documentation, we're approving your enrollment. Relief washed over me. But as I left the building, dread settled in. My father would somehow find out I'd gotten in anyway. 2 days later, he did. The text message was short and venomous. I know what you're doing. If you use my name or ask relatives for help, you'll regret it. My hands shook as I read it.
He was threatening me. But why?
What did he gain from my failure? For days, I lived in fear. Every notification made me jump. I stopped posting on social media, afraid he was watching. But I couldn't let him win. I researched everything about financial aid, looking for ways to become truly independent. That's when I found it a FAFSA loophole. If I could prove I was homeless and self-supporting, I could declare myself independent. No parental information needed. No leverage for him to use. But it required documentation. Official proof that I had no stable housing. My heart sank. Who would sign such a statement? Mrs. Patterson had already helped so much. Then I thought of Marco, my boss at the diner. He'd seen me at my lowest. He knew my story. The next shift I stayed after closing. Marco, can I ask you something? He was wiping down tables, his kind eyes meeting mine. Of course, kid. What's up? I explained everything, the FAFSA requirement, the need for proof. His expression hardened. Your father did that to you? I nodded. Without hesitation, he said, I'll sign whatever you need. Tears filled my eyes. Thank you, I whispered. Marco patted my shoulder. Strangers become family when blood relatives fail you. Remember that. He signed the documentation that night. I submitted it immediately. 3 weeks later, FAFSA approved my independent status with maximum aid. I stared at the approval email, hardly believing it. But reality hit hard. Aid covered tuition, but I still needed money for books, supplies, and transportation. I added a second job. During the day, I walked dogs for busy professionals. At night, I still worked the diner. I ran on 4 hours of sleep, fueled by coffee and sheer determination. Some mornings, I nearly collapsed getting off the bus. My body screamed for rest, but I couldn't stop. One afternoon, my psychology professor, Dr. Valerie Kemp, asked me to stay after class. Bliss, I've noticed you're always the first to arrive and the last to leave. You ask excellent questions. I blushed. I just really love learning, Professor. She studied me carefully. I'm looking for a research assistant. 20 hours a week, decent pay. Would you be interested? I couldn't breathe.
Yes.
Absolutely yes. She smiled.
Good.
Start Monday. As I left her office, I realized something profound. Strangers, Marco, Ruby, Dr. Kemp, were giving me more support than my own family ever had. That night, I cried tears of gratitude instead of pain. But the next day, Dr. Kemp called me into her office again. Her expression was serious. Bliss, I think you should know something. My heart dropped.
What now?
Had my father somehow contacted the university too? Dr. Kemp gestured for me to sit. There's more to this assistantship than I mentioned. I've been reviewing your work, Dr. Kemp began, pulling out my essays. Your analytical skills are extraordinary. I want to recommend you for our honors mentorship program. I stared at her, speechless. But I'm just a community college transfer. I'm nobody. She shook her head firmly. You're brilliant, Bliss. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The mentorship program was competitive. Only 5 students were selected each year. I'd be working directly with top professors on real research projects. It could open doors I'd never imagined. But doubt crept in. What if I wasn't smart enough? What if I failed and proved my father right? Dr. Kemp must have seen the fear in my eyes. Imposter syndrome is common among talented students from difficult backgrounds. Don't let it win. I accepted the position. Over the next 6 months, I thrived. My research on behavioral psychology was selected for presentation at a regional conference. I was becoming someone I'd never dreamed possible. Then one afternoon, returning from class, I found a letter wedged in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name written in handwriting I recognized immediately. My father's. I stood frozen in the hallway, staring at the envelope. Part of me wanted to throw it away without reading it. But I couldn't. I needed to know what he wanted now. My hands trembled as I tore it open. The letter was poison-dressed as words. Bliss, I hear you're playing student now. How embarrassing for our family. You're pretending to be smart when everyone knows you're not. Stop humiliating yourself and us. You're nothing but a charity case. At the bottom, Victoria had added a postscript in her sharp handwriting. You'll always be the girl nobody wanted. I read it 3 times. The first time it hurt. The second time it made me angry. The third time something shifted. I carefully folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer. Not to torture myself, but to remember. Every time I doubted myself, I'd look at it and prove them wrong again. Dr. Kemp noticed my renewed intensity. You're pushing yourself hard, Bliss. Everything okay? I nodded. Better than okay. I'm ready for more. She smiled knowingly. Good. Because I'm nominating you for something big. The following week, she called me into her office. There's a full-ride transfer scholarship to Thornton University. It's one of the best schools in the country. My breath caught. Do you think I have a chance? Her answer was firm. I think you're going to win it. I spent 3 weeks perfecting my application. Every essay, every recommendation letter, every detail had to be perfect. I submitted it on a Friday evening, then collapsed into bed, emotionally drained. 6 weeks later, I received an email. I was a finalist. But there was a problem. The email explained that the scholarship committee had received an anonymous call. Someone claimed I'd lied on my application, fabricated my hardships, and didn't deserve consideration. My father. Again. The committee was requesting an in-person interview to clarify discrepancies. I wanted to scream. How many times would he try to destroy me? But I wouldn't back down. Not anymore. Dr. Kemp helped me prepare. We gathered every piece of documentation, bank statements showing my income, letters from Marco and Mrs. Patterson, my FAFSA independence approval, even photos of me sleeping on Taylor's couch. The interview was scheduled for the following Thursday. I barely slept the night before. At 9 in the morning, I walked into a conference room where 5 committee members sat waiting. Miss Harrington, thank you for coming, the chair began. We need to understand your situation better. I told them everything. The rejection, the torn acceptance letter, being thrown out, my father's sabotage attempts. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply told the truth with quiet dignity. When I finished, the room was silent. Then the chair spoke. Thank you for your honesty. We'll be in touch. I left that room emotionally exhausted but strangely peaceful. I'd told my truth. Whatever happened next was beyond my control. 3 days later, on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. Miss Harrington, congratulations. We're awarding you the Thornton University Presidential Scholarship. Full tuition room, board, and a stipend. I dropped the phone. I called Dr. Kemp immediately, sobbing with joy. I got it. I actually got it. She laughed. I never doubted you for a second. That evening, I allowed myself to celebrate. Taylor bought a cake, and we ate it in her tiny apartment, talking about my future. For the first time in years, I felt hope instead of fear. But my happiness was short-lived. The next morning, I woke to dozens of notifications. Victoria had created a fake social media account and posted lies about me. Local girl scams scholarship committee with fake sob story. This fraud doesn't deserve anything. My stomach churned. Comments from strangers who didn't know me piled up. Some believed her. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Bliss Harrington? A professional voice asked. Yes. This is Amanda Cross from the Regional Tribune. I'd like to ask about accusations circulating online regarding your scholarship. My heart pounded. What accusations? She explained Victoria's posts. Would you like to comment? I almost declined. But then she added something interesting. I actually know your father. Or rather, I know of him. There was a business scandal a few years back. My breath caught. What scandal? Amanda hesitated. That's not for me to say publicly. But if you're willing to meet, I think we should talk. I agreed. We met at a coffee shop downtown the next day. Amanda was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and professional. She pulled out a folder as we sat down. Your father's company, Harrington Development, was investigated 3 years ago for accounting irregularities. I leaned forward. What do you mean? She showed me printed articles. Questionable transactions, potential embezzlement. Nothing was ever proven, but the investigation damaged his reputation. He's been struggling financially since. Suddenly, everything made sense. He denied me college money not because he didn't care, but because he was broke. And my success, my scholarships, my achievements, they made him look worse by comparison. I didn't tell Amanda everything, but I confirmed the basics of my story. She promised to handle it ethically. The article came out 2 days later. Fair, factual, and focused on my perseverance rather than revenge. Public opinion shifted immediately. Victoria's lies crumbled. But something unexpected happened. A message came through on social media from someone named Tyler Harrington. My stepbrother. Bliss, I need to talk to you. It's important. Please. I'd barely spoken to Tyler. He was Victoria's son from a previous marriage, quiet and always in the background. What could he possibly want? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. We chose a public park, neutral ground. Tyler looked nervous when he arrived, constantly glancing over his shoulder. Thank you for coming, he said. I know we're not close, but I need to tell you something. Tyler sat across from me, fidgeting with his jacket zipper. My mom did something terrible. I've known for years, but I was too scared to say anything. My chest tightened. What did she do? He took a deep breath. Your mom, your real mom, she set up a college fund for you before she died. My mom found out about it after she married your dad. The world tilted. What? She forged your signature when you turned 13. Made it look like you authorized early withdrawal. Then she and your dad drained the entire account. Rage and grief crashed over me simultaneously. My mother had prepared for my future, and they'd stolen it. How much? I whispered. Tyler looked down. Over $50,000. I stood up, unable to sit still. Everything made sense now. The cruelty, the sabotage, the desperation to keep me down. They'd stolen my mother's gift and spent it on themselves. Why are you telling me this now? Tyler's eyes were glassy. Because I'm leaving that house. I can't be part of their lies anymore. And because you deserve to know the truth. He handed me a folder. Inside were bank statements, withdrawal records, and what looked like a forged signature, supposedly mine but from when I was 13. Tyler, thank you. I managed. He nodded. Get justice, Bliss. For your mom. For yourself. I immediately contacted the lawyer who'd handled my mother's estate. Mr. Bernard Kowalski was semi-retired, but remembered my mother fondly. When I showed him the documents Tyler had given me, his expression darkened. This is fraud. Clear-cut identity theft and embezzlement from a minor's trust. He agreed to take my case. Within a week, he'd filed a formal complaint. My father received official notice that he was under investigation for financial misconduct involving my inheritance. Victoria panicked. She started posting frantically online, claiming I was lying, that I was vengeful and unstable. But this time, people saw through her. The evidence was overwhelming. My father's lawyer contacted Mr. Kowalski, trying to negotiate a settlement. My father wanted this to disappear quietly, but I refused. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about accountability. While the legal battle unfolded, something incredible happened. I received an email from the National Student Leadership Foundation. Dear Miss Harrington, you have been selected as one of 20 fellows for our prestigious national program. I read the email 5 times. This fellowship included a full year of mentorship, networking with industry leaders, and a substantial stipend. I was now not just surviving, I was thriving. The news spread quickly. Local media covered it. The university sent out a press release celebrating my achievement. And through it all, my father's world continued crumbling. His business was losing clients. His reputation was ruined. People who once respected him now saw him for what he really was. The fellowship transformed my life. I traveled to conferences, met brilliant mentors, and worked on projects that could change policy. My confidence grew with each success. But my father's situation deteriorated. I heard through former neighbors that Harrington Development had filed for bankruptcy. Victoria had moved out, abandoning him as his money dried up. Part of me felt vindicated. Most of me just felt empty. Then, during my second semester at Thornton University, I received a call from the university president's office. Miss Harrington, President Wallace would like to meet with you. Are you available tomorrow? I agreed, nervous and curious. The next day, I sat in an elegant office overlooking campus. President Wallace was a distinguished woman in her 60s. She smiled warmly. Bliss, I've been following your journey. Your resilience is remarkable. I thanked her quietly. I'm calling you here because we'd like to offer you the honor of being our student commencement speaker at graduation. My heart stopped. Me? But I'm only a junior. She nodded. We're making an exception. Your story embodies everything we hope to instill in our students. Would you accept? Tears filled my eyes. The girl who was told she'd never make it would now stand before thousands and share her story. Yes, I whispered. I'd be honored. News of my selection spread quickly. The speech hadn't even been written yet, but people were already talking about it. Writing that speech was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I went through 20 drafts, trying to find the right words. How do you talk about betrayal without sounding bitter? How do you celebrate survival without seeming triumphant over others' pain? I practiced in front of Dr. Kemp. She listened carefully, then gave me advice that changed everything.
Don't make it about them.
Make it about everyone who's been told they're not enough. I rewrote it completely. The speech became about resilience, self-worth, and refusing to let others define your value. I never mentioned my father by name, but the message was clear. 3 weeks before graduation, something happened. My father showed up on campus. I was leaving the library when I saw him standing by the fountain, looking smaller and frilier than I remembered. Our eyes met. He took a hesitant step forward. Every instinct told me to run, but I stood my ground. Bliss, he called out, his voice cracking. I walked closer, but kept distance between us. What do you want? He looked down. I heard about your speech. About graduation. I wanted to tell you that I'm proud. The words I'd once desperately craved now felt hollow. Are you? I asked coldly. Or are you just here because your reputation is destroyed and you think associating with me might save it? He flinched. I made mistakes. You made choices, I corrected. Mistakes are accidental. You deliberately tried to ruin me. He was silent. We stood there, 2 strangers connected only by blood and pain. Finally, he spoke. The investigation into your mother's fund. I know I'm going to lose. My lawyer says the evidence is clear. I didn't respond. I need you to understand. I was struggling financially. The company was failing. I made bad decisions. I shook my head. You stole from your dead wife's daughter. That's beyond a bad decision. He looked genuinely broken. I know. And I'm sorry. For a moment, I almost believed him. Almost. There's something else, he continued carefully. The investigator wants to interview you. And I'm asking, begging, you to consider going easy on me during your testimony. My blood boiled. Even now, he was manipulating. You want me to lie for you? Not lie. Just maybe not emphasize certain things. I stepped back. I'll answer their questions honestly. What happens after that is your consequence, not my responsibility. He grabbed my arm. Bliss, please. I'm your father. I pulled away.
No.
A father protects his children. A father sacrifices for them. You're just the man whose name is on my birth certificate. He looked like I'd slapped him. You'll hear my answer at graduation, I said, then turned and walked away, leaving him standing alone by the fountain. That night, I finalized my speech. Every word felt right. Graduation day arrived with perfect weather. Blue skies, warm sun, and a sense of anticipation that buzzed through campus. I put on my cap and gown, hands trembling slightly. My phone buzzed with messages. Dr. Kemp, Marco from the diner, Mrs. Patterson, Taylor, Ruby, and even Tyler, all sending encouragement. No message from my father, but I knew he'd be there. I'd seen his name on the guest list. The ceremony began at 10. Thousands of people filled the outdoor stadium. I sat with other honored students, my heart pounding as speeches progressed. Finally, President Wallace approached the microphone. It is my honor to introduce our student commencement speaker, a young woman whose journey embodies the resilience we hope to instill in every graduate. Please welcome Bliss Harrington. Applause erupted. I walked to the podium, looking out at a sea of faces. And there, in the middle section, I saw him. My father sat alone, watching me. Our eyes met briefly. Then I looked away and began to speak. For years ago, someone told me I'd never make it. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. They said I wasn't worth investing in. That college was for people who mattered. They tore up my acceptance letter in front of me and threw me out of their home. Gasps rippled through the audience. I continued, my voice steady and clear. I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because many of you have heard similar words. Maybe not from parents, but from teachers, friends, partners, or society. Someone somewhere told you that you weren't enough. Heads nodded throughout the crowd. Here's what I learned. Those words only have power if you believe them. The moment you decide your worth isn't determined by others' opinions, you become unstoppable. I glanced at my father. He was crying. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing you gave everything you had, regardless of who believed in you. The audience was completely focused now. I worked 2 jobs. I slept on a friend's couch. I cried in diner bathrooms at 3 a.m. But I also found strangers who became family. I discovered strength I didn't know I had. And I learned that the best revenge isn't cruelty. It's building a life so beautiful that those who doubted you can only watch from the outside. Applause began building. To everyone graduating today, remember this. Your value isn't negotiable. Your dreams aren't up for debate. And your future belongs to you alone. The stadium erupted. People rose to their feet, applause thundering across campus. I stood there, tears streaming down my face, finally believing every word I'd just spoken. President Wallace hugged me as I stepped away from the microphone. Brilliant, she whispered. As I returned to my seat, I saw my father trying to leave, but people blocked the aisles. He was trapped, forced to sit through the rest of the ceremony. After the ceremony ended, I was surrounded by people. Professors, students, journalists. Everyone wanted to talk. A woman in a business suit approached. Miss Harrington, I'm Nicole Westbrook from Westbrook Consulting. We'd like to offer you a position when you graduate next year. She handed me a card. Starting salary of $85,000, full benefits, and signing bonus. I stared at the card, overwhelmed. This was really happening. We'll be in touch, she said with a smile. More offers came throughout the day. 3 different companies wanted to recruit me. My phone exploded with emails and messages. As the crowd thinned, I finally saw him again. My father stood at the edge of the lawn, waiting. I walked over slowly. He looked older than I remembered, worn down by consequences he'd brought on himself. That was a powerful speech, he said quietly. Thank you. He hesitated. Can we talk? Privately? I considered refusing, but I needed closure. 5 minutes. We walked to a quiet bench beneath an oak tree. He sat down heavily. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve to ask for it. I said nothing. But I need you to know that what I did, it destroyed me more than it ever hurt you. I almost laughed. Really? Because from where I'm standing, you got exactly what you deserved. He nodded slowly. I did. The bankruptcy, Victoria leaving, losing everything, I earned all of it. We sat in silence. Finally, he spoke again. Your mother would be so proud of you. She always said you had fire in you. Hearing him mention my mother sparked anger. Don't talk about her. You stole the future she tried to give me. I know. His voice broke. I know, and I'll regret it until the day I die. My phone buzzed. Mr. Kowalski, my lawyer. I needed to take this. Excuse me. I stepped away and answered. Bliss, we have a ruling. The judge found in your favor. Full restitution of the original fund plus damages and interest. Total amount is $78,000. I almost dropped the phone. They have to pay within 30 days or face additional penalties. I thanked him and hung up, turning back to my father. He was watching me and somehow he knew. That was about the fund, wasn't it? I nodded. I have to pay it back.
Yes.
Every cent. He closed his eyes. I don't have that kind of money anymore. Then you'll figure it out. The same way you expected me to figure out homelessness at 18. He stood slowly. I deserve that. Before he could leave, I stopped him. Wait. He turned back, hope flickering in his eyes. I want you to understand something. This isn't revenge. This is justice. There's a difference. He nodded, defeated. Goodbye, Bliss. I watched him walk away, growing smaller with each step. And I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no victory. Just peace. 2 weeks later, the first installment of my restitution arrived. I stared at the bank notification, unable to fully process it. This money represented my mother's love, her belief in me, her hope for my future. I decided to honor that. I paid off my student loans completely. I sent generous gifts to Marco, Mrs. Patterson, and Taylor, people who'd helped when they didn't have to. The rest I saved, knowing my mother would want me to build something stable. That summer, I completed my fellowship and accepted the position at Westbrook Consulting. My first day of work felt surreal. I had an office, a salary, respect. Everything my father said I'd never achieve. One evening, Tyler texted me. Mom moved to Florida. Dad sold the house. It's over. I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Their empire had crumbled, and I'd survived to build my own. In August, I did something symbolic. I went back to my hometown and drove past the diner where I'd cried so many nights. Then I drove to the neighborhood where I'd been thrown out. The house looked smaller than I remembered, sad and empty. A for sale sign stood in the front yard. I parked across the street and just looked at it, remembering the girl who'd stood on that porch with garbage bags, completely lost. She'd become someone incredible. As I sat there, a text came through. My father. I paid the full restitution. I hope you use it well. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. 3 months later, I found my perfect apartment. Modern, bright, with huge windows overlooking the city. I could afford it comfortably now. My career was taking off. I was thriving. One Saturday, I invited Dr. Kemp for coffee. You've come so far, she said, smiling. Do you ever think about your father? I considered the question honestly. Sometimes. But not with anger anymore. Mostly, I just feel grateful that his rejection forced me to become stronger. She nodded knowingly. That's real growth. Later that week, I received a letter from Thornton University. They were creating an emergency fund for students in crisis situations and wanted to name it after me. The Bliss Harrington Resilience Fund would help students facing homelessness, family rejection, or financial emergencies. I cried reading the letter. My pain would now help others survive theirs. I agreed immediately and donated the first $10,000 myself. The fund launched in September. By December, it had helped 15 students stay in school. I met some of them at a small reception. Their gratitude reminded me of why I'd fought so hard. That night, I stood in my apartment, looking at my reflection in the window. For years ago, I'd been told I was worthless. Now I was proof that they were wrong. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hi Bliss. This is Victoria." My stomach clenched. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. I wanted to apologize. Tyler told me everything. I was wrong. I stared at the message, unmoved. Too little, far too late. I didn't respond to Victoria. Some apologies don't deserve acknowledgement. Instead, I focused on my life, my career, my peace. Christmas came and went quietly. I spent it with Taylor and her family, finally understanding what genuine love looked like. In January, I received another unexpected call. "Miss Harrington? This is Eleanor Harrington, your grandmother." I froze. My father's mother, whom I'd barely seen since childhood. "I know this is unexpected," she continued, "but I need to see you. There's something I should have told you years ago." We met at a small cafe the following week. My grandmother was elegant, with kind eyes that looked so much like my mother's. "Bliss, I suspected what your father and Victoria did. I should have intervened."
I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say.
"I have something for you." She pulled out an envelope. "Your mother gave this to me before she died. She made me promise to give it to you when you graduated college." My hands shook as I took it. Inside was a letter in my mother's handwriting. "My dearest Bliss," it began. "If you're reading this, you've made it to college. I knew you would. You've always been unstoppable." Tears blurred the words. "I'm so proud of the woman you're becoming. Remember that your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. You are enough, exactly as you are. Love eternally, Mom." I sobbed in that cafe, my grandmother holding my hand. "She believed in you completely," grandmother said. And she was right. We talked for hours. She told me stories about my mother I'd never heard. My grandmother became a steady presence in my life. We had lunch every Sunday, slowly rebuilding what should have always existed. In March, my father tried reaching out again. This time, through my grandmother. "He wants to see you. He's not well." I thought about it for days. Finally, I agreed. We met at a neutral location, a park bench where we'd once walked when I was small. He looked terrible. Thin, aged, broken. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "I don't have much time. The doctors say my heart is failing." I felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy but not complete indifference either. "I've spent these months thinking about everything. About your mother, about you, about the choices I made." I listened silently. "I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back those years of suffering. But I want you to know, I see you now. I see how incredible you are. And I'm sorry I didn't see it when it mattered." He pulled out an envelope. "This is the deed to a small property I still own. It's not much, but it's yours. No strings, no conditions." I took it, stunned. It was a small house on the outskirts of town. "I don't expect this to fix anything," he continued. "I just wanted to give you something real. Something that can't be taken away." For the first time in years, I saw genuine remorse in his eyes. I accepted the deed, but made my boundaries clear. This doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't mean we're suddenly family again. He nodded. "I understand. But I also don't need to carry hatred anymore. It's too heavy. So I'm choosing to let go. Not for you, but for me." He started crying. "You're so much stronger than I ever was." I stood up to leave. He called after me. "Bliss, will you be okay?" I turned back and gave him a small, genuine smile. "I already am." I walked away from that bench and never looked back. 6 months later, I bought the small house he'd given me. Not to live in, I loved my city apartment, but as a rental property. I renovated it completely and rented it at below-market rates to students in crisis. The first tenant was a young man named Marcus who'd been kicked out for being gay. The irony wasn't lost on me. One evening, I drove past the house to check on it. Marcus was planting flowers in the front garden, making it his home. I thought about the girl I used to be, scared, rejected, convinced she was worthless. Then I thought about who I'd become, successful, generous, free. The best revenge really was a life well lived. A life built with my own hands, on my own terms, surrounded by people who chose to love me. I pulled out my phone and looked at old photos. The torn acceptance letter I'd kept all these years. The diner uniform. The couch where I'd slept. Reminders of how far I'd traveled. Then I deleted them. I didn't need them anymore. My worth wasn't tied to my suffering. It was tied to my survival. That night, I sat in my apartment, drinking tea and watching the city lights. My phone buzzed with an email. Dear Miss Harrington, we'd like to interview you for our Women in Leadership series. I smiled and began typing my response. Because this story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. And this time, I was writing every single chapter myself.